If someone were to say to me, how was the Backrooms movie? The only thing I would say was, it's like trying to describe a dog to someone who's never seen a dog and then asking them to draw it. I went to go see the Backrooms with the beloved Dr. Quails, and when the credits rolled and the film was over, the only thing we could say to each other, this isn't an exaggeration, was, yeah. That was it. That was the only word that came out of our mouths. We couldn't think of anything else, but not because it was bad, not because nothing had happened, but because so much had happened. So much was both shown and implied and thought about, that's the only thing we could say was, yeah. Not because there was nothing to say, but because there was so much to say. So much to say. So many themes, so many characters. It explored so many themes in such a thought-provoking way. It felt like my brain was just doing loop-de-loops. When I was leaving the theatre, I was trying to figure out how to put what was in my brain into words. I couldn't put it into words, I was really struggling. But I love movies like that, where you actually have to think about it a little bit. And whether it be your interpretation or what the movie actually means, if it makes you think about it, it's a good movie in my eyes. The atmosphere in the film was absolutely incredible. It felt eerie and claustrophobic and unpredictable in every single best way. One of the first looks where you see what is the original image of the Backrooms essentially in the film, I was instantly transported back to when I first saw the image and when it was first circulating and the feelings I felt. Being able to connect with that feeling again on the big screen was absolutely incredible. Just pre-warning, this entire review will include spoilers, very much will. But the entire opening sequence with our async man, where he's running around those rooms are exactly what I imagined walking around the original image would be like. Exactly. As the movie progresses, the rooms do change. They start to become a little bit more complex, a little bit more, they start to change shape. There's archways, there's things that weren't there before, there's doors, plants, chairs, there's entire houses at one point. But that just shows how the atmosphere and how the Backrooms changes over time. But I think it was really important in that opening sequence for it to be to a T how I imagined walking around that image would be. That was absolutely an incredible feeling. And then having it evolve over time, I think not only follows on with how the Backrooms evolves over time, but also how our perception of the Backrooms has changed over time as well. We now see it as somewhere that can have buildings and places and different levels and things like that, or at least a large amount of the community does. Everything in this movie is so quiet, it's almost painful. Genuinely, as soon as all you've got is that humming noise of the lights pretty much the entire film, and as soon as a character makes any kind of noise, you immediately feel yourself tense up because that noise is amplified by 1,000. It's an incredibly wonderful thing to have, just constant silence, and then as soon as anything happens it just drags you straight back in. And even when you leave the Backrooms, the outside world is very liminal. Like, you're seeing the sky and it's perfectly blue and the clouds are a perfect shape and you've got these lovely, a little bit too smooth hills in the background. The entire movie is liminal. Even when you are outside of the Backrooms, you still have these houses that are a little bit too perfect, and the sky that's too blue, and the hills that are too green, and everything is just a little bit slightly off. And I think that's a wonderful atmosphere. I also like to say I love the colour in this film. I feel like a lot of films recently have been very desaturated and maybe even darkened, but the colour in this film is incredible. Like, it's genuinely saturated. It feels like a film. Like, I feel like we're finally using what are these fancy cameras we've got were made to be used for. They are colourful, they've got colour in them, and I love that. This movie explores themes like loss, guilt, trauma, abuse, deep loneliness, and different levels of human psychology in very interesting ways. You can sit here and break down the characters for hours. For hours and hours and hours after this movie has ended, I've literally sat with myself and just thought about, wow, that's really clever. It just keeps linking up together, it keeps getting better the more I think about it afterwards as well. Something that stays with you afterwards, I think, is really incredible. The film also explores memories really heavily, how memories build the human experience, what you are now and what you will be. This is represented in, of course, the characters, but also in the Backrooms themselves, which are based on memory. It's like these walls and this maze is constantly learning and building and trying to recreate what it can learn from. And the Backrooms, as they are remembered, they slowly warp and they change over time, and they create this world, much like how our memories build us as people. The characters here are incredibly interesting. We have Mary, who is our therapist. We learn throughout the film that she has her own deep traumas and experiences out of her control. From the impression that I got, and maybe a few others, she almost feels guilty or responsible for not being able to help her mother, or responsible in some way for what happened to her mother being sent into asylum. And she takes that into her adult life as a therapist, constantly trying to help people, which is of course what a therapist does. But Mary as a character, she does it to the point where she follows Clark, who is one of her clients, into a place she has no idea about just because she wants to help him. She has this intense need to help people. She potentially feels helpless about what happened to her mother, and so she does everything she can to help everyone else around her. Her entire character and who she is revolves around helping other people and her clients, including Clark. She might even be what I'd say a people pleaser until she realizes she cannot please everyone. She cannot help everyone. She goes through this arc in the film where she goes from this therapist trying to help everyone to the point where she, like I said, even follows Clark into this unknown world just to try and help him, putting herself in danger. She didn't realize she was in danger, but she was. Following anyone into any random place is still a little bit too dangerous. And then by the end of the movie, she is screaming at Clark. She's completely snapped. She's done the complete opposite. She's screaming at him. She's telling him she cannot help him. And that kind of causes this kind of relief. You see it as she says it. She says the fact that she cannot help everyone. And you can see her body just deflate a little bit. She kind of sits there and just, it's like something washes over her. She realizes she just can't. There's some people she just cannot help. And it's this kind of acceptance level. She even carries her trauma and her behaviors as an adult in a physical form. She has this concrete slab with an impression of her hand into it. Now this is a key moment from her childhood with her mother. One of the only times she was outside. They were outside their house and they were putting their hands into the concrete. When her house was demolished, she, instead of leaving it completely demolished, she has taken this little souvenir of her and her mother and taking it back to her house. And even in the end of the film, she actually pops it in her pocket and carries it around the back rooms with her and takes it into this space. She's physically holding on to her memories and her traumas in a physical form. Even though she's no longer in that situation, she holds on to it physically and mentally until the end of the film, which we'll get to now. Until the end, where she uses that concrete hand as a form of physical defense against Pirate Clark, or Mr. Rooms as some people call him. At the end of the film, when Pirate Clark finally catches her, he gets a hold of her, she is trapped to the floor, and she uses this concrete hand in her pocket to smash it into Captain Clark's face, and repeatedly until this concrete slab breaks. It shows by the end of the movie that she's broken these patterns within herself, both physically and mentally, because that directly mirrors the table scene. Almost to a T, I'd say. At the table scene, Mary has just come out of consciousness. She is tied to a chair. She is trapped by human Clark. She is mentally and emotionally attacked by Clark. He forces her to go through an entire ordeal with him living out his traumas, placing them upon her. She is threatened with a knife. She's seen some things at this table. By the end of it, she completely snaps. She fights back against Clark. She tells him exactly how it is. She cannot help him, and she has this kind of relief. That directly mirrors the physical attack from Pirate Clark. Now, Pirate Clark is human Clark's clone in the Backrooms. It's how the Backrooms has remembered him, and Pirate Clark is this massive, larger-than-life version of him, which we will go into a little bit. We're just going to talk about Mary a little bit more. Mary is just coming out of consciousness from the gas in the room that they're using to try and sedate the monster. She's just coming out of consciousness. The monster is on top of her. She is trapped. By the end of that interaction, she has used a physical form of her trauma as a defense. She has used it to get him off of her, and so she escapes. So in both scenes, she has broken her patterns, she has changed, and she has gone through this entire arc where she no longer is so desperate to help everyone. She is a completely new character. But it's really interesting to me that those scenes are exactly the same, but one is mental, one is physical. She's physically defending herself and breaking her patterns by breaking the concrete slab, and she is mentally and emotionally defending herself and breaking her patterns by speaking up against someone who is treating her wrong. And so she breaks out of her memories. She breaks out of her patterns. She survives. Clark, on the other hand, very interesting character, does not survive. Spoilers. On the other hand, stays exactly where he is. Let's be clear, okay? Clark, our main man, is not a good guy. You can feel sympathetic towards him. You can understand some of where he's coming from, but he is inherently not a good guy. He intentionally, not accidentally, intentionally makes bad decisions that affect other people throughout the entire film. And I'm not talking like, oh, he ate their ice cream when he knew it was theirs. I mean, he killed people. He killed people. But he is a great character. He's very interesting. And I actually really enjoyed the fact that he's not a good guy. It's okay to have a film and for the main character not to be this incredible hero. I think it's wonderful that he is a bad guy. I really enjoyed that aspect of the movie, actually. I thought it was very neat. He puts people in danger when he knows there is danger. He brings Kat and Bobby into the back rooms without warning them of what else is down there. He brings them in there purely for his own selfish gain, because his therapist doesn't believe him that he's found somewhere underground that stretches hundreds of thousands of miles. So to prove it, gets Kat and Bobby to follow him and record him so that he can show his therapist, but he does not warn Kat or Bobby about the genuine danger that is there. He's using them purely for his own gain, and then when something goes wrong, he abandons them. They, unfortunately, again, spoilers, Bobby is dragged away by this Captain Clark, and Kat chases after him. Now, Kat is an incredible character. I would love to go deeper into her in another video, but I think what really struck with me is the fact that she was so hesitant. She did not want to be there. You should always trust your gut. This is a good sign to trust your gut, guys. She did not want to be there at all. She was ready to leave at any given second, but the second Bobby was taken, she was running after him straight into Captain Clark's lair, where he keeps all of his bodies. She ran straight into there after him. So that, I think, that just really touched me a little bit, I'm not gonna lie to you. But he runs the other way. Clark, seeing Kat chase after Bobby, runs the other way. He completely abandons them. So he gets them killed and then leaves. But not only that, he finds out that Kat is still alive, tries to help, but then we find out later in the film that he actually killed her. So he opens the fridge in this fake house and her head is in the fridge, and his only response is, oh well, I tried to help her. So no, you just found her. You and Captain Clark got together, and either you or Clark killed her. You were together. You have killed Kat. Either he's killed her or Big Clark has killed her. But either way, he was there. He did nothing to help. He's just buddied up with the monster and killed Kat and just popped her in a fridge just for funsies. So that's one of the things he's done. He's also abusive towards his wife. This is heavily implied, purely by the fact that the clone of his wife absolutely loses her mind when the clone of Clark walks in. She is screaming, she's running towards the edge of the room, she's clawing at the walls to try and get away from this other Clark. Heavily implied. Not only that, but he is generally an incredibly aggressive character. We open one of the main scenes with him screaming in a reenactment of his wife. He's screaming at his wife, he is calling her names, he is blaming everything on her. So he also has a severe drinking problem, and that merges together with him screaming at his wife. He also kidnaps Mary. So, you know, the list keeps going. He's overly aggressive, possessive, defensive, the list goes on. But you see my point. He's not a good guy. And actually, I like the fact that we have not a great guy for the main character. it makes a nice change. Now, he is trying to get help through Mary, but he never makes progress over the course of the movie. Every therapist session is defensive. It's always about how it's someone else's fault, how he was doing his best, how he couldn't do this, how she did that. Every therapy session is defensive. He's quite an aggressive character, naturally, but the second he is even told something different to what he believes, he immediately gets overly aggressive, shouting straight away. To be honest, if he told Kat and Bobby that there was something in here that could and will very much kill them, they wouldn't have helped him. That's why he didn't tell them. He didn't tell them because he knew they would not help if they knew what was down there. They wouldn't. I think it's so sad that Kat she chases after Bobby, but Bobby's already dead. That was just so devastating. That was genuinely a horrifying scene, and if you guys want me to go into the scenes, the scary ones, and why they were so horrifying, I would love to make a video about that. I'm so enthusiastic about it. Clark is either a murderer or an accomplice to murder. Still not good, okay? And then he finds these copies of people, and somehow he discovers that they don't feel pain, which I guess you could discover by self-defense. If you try and hit them and they don't feel any pain, then you go, oh, they don't feel any pain. But what he then reveals is that he says, and you can eat them. How does one figure that out? How does one discover that you can eat someone else? Either Pirate Clark has told him, which I doubt it because we don't hear Pirate Clark say a single word, or he has just decided to eat someone. Of course, he has been down there for a very long time, so we know now how he's been surviving. He's also been eating still lives. By him eating these still lives, these people, it reflects on how his behaviour actually mentally eats away at the people around him. He doesn't just physically eat these copies of people, he actually consumes the people around him and uses them like Kat and Bobby. He uses them for his own need. He eats these people for his own need. It's a physical representation of what he's been doing this entire film. He has no problem with using the people around him to keep him going. And he never changes by the end of the film. That is his entire arc, but it's a contrast between him and Mary. He never changes and Mary does. At the table scene, he explains how he feels at home in this place, and I can see why. It's essentially his mind. As you're walking around it completely reflects him. You walk around, and one of the first scenes you see when you walk into one of the back rooms is there's this big throne in the middle of the room, and we don't understand later that actually that's a big throne for Big Pirate Clark. At the beginning of the film, one of the scenes they shot is real Clark filming an advertisement with Kat and Bobby. He goes to the middle of the room, he sits down on the chair, and the chair breaks. He falls off, he's humiliated, he's instantly angry, and shouts at Bobby to stop rolling. But in the back rooms, this big throne is still intact, it's not broken, it's slightly wonky, and into the floor it's slightly distorted, but it's not broken. That is his throne, unbroken, untouched, and I believe that represents a big part of how he feels about this space. And then you can also see Kat and Bobby's shoes sticking out of the floor opposite, which I thought was really interesting, but that just itched my brain quite nicely. It's a physical representation of how he feels about the Backrooms. It is a place where he is not dethroned. It's a place where he is in charge of the world around him, and he's okay being there with that sense of loneliness. He's okay with it. He says at the beginning of the film he's just meant to be alone. He says at the table he feels at home in this place that only remembers. And after Mary screams at him, he finally breaks and he says, I don't think I want to leave. I like it here. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And Mary responds with, then stay. Exactly where you are. And he does. He never changes. I think it's really incredible how a table scene like that took such a direction that I genuinely wasn't expecting. I've seen a couple of table scenes in media and I was worried it was going to be quite similar to that, but it was completely different. Obviously you've got him at the head of the table screaming and shouting. I thought it was going to go a very different direction, but by the end of it, them having that interaction, I actually, even though he's a bad person, he's done all of these horrible things, I still felt deep sympathy for him. I felt genuinely devastated by the interaction, not scared, not freaked out. I just felt devastated. After everything that happened at that table, I just felt devastated. And I think that's a really wonderful feeling you can create from a scene like that. And Clark never changes. He realises that he is the problem, he embraces it with no intention to be better. None. Both characters have this sense of relief at the table, but both for different reasons. Mary, because she realises she cannot help everyone, and Clark, because he realises that he doesn't have to help anyone. He doesn't need to change. He stays exactly the same way he is. He has this inherent pressure in him that he needs to change, which of course is a bad guy. He could probably stop killing people or putting people in danger and all those other things, but he lets go of that need to change and he removes that feeling of, I don't think he ever wanted to change. I think he always felt like he was supposed to change because people around him were telling him to, and now he's discovered a place where he doesn't need to, and he has that sense of relief from that. Neither version of acceptance is necessarily right or wrong. They're just... Not long after this, we meet Captain Clark, or Mr. Rooms, for the first time. He comes around the corner, it's the big reveal, and he is introduced by his wife, well, the copy of his wife, screaming, running to the furthest corner and continuing to scream, which was incredibly unnerving, the entire scene. Thanks for that, Kane. Now, Pirate Clark is literally embodiment of all of his habits that he's built up over the course of his life. Pirate Clark is his memories. Pirate Clark is his patterns. It's incredibly interesting. Pirate Clark appears as someone that is absolutely massive. He's larger than any of the other clones that you see. He is larger than life, and I believe that's a massive representation of how Clark is very intimidating, but he wants to be powerful. He wants to be in control of his life because he feels like it's out of his control, it's everyone else's fault. And so by making a clone that is massive, he has this control, he has this mighty force to be reckoned with. And also it's a physical representation of how human Clark has this inflated sense of self, how nothing can ever be his fault, there's nothing wrong with him. He has this inflated sense of himself, and so we have this inflated self of him, you know? But the size could also just be also down to the fact that there's a big pirate on the sign of his building, and so it's copied the size of the pirate on the sign. But considering that it's a copy of Clark and not the sign, I'm gonna say it's because of his sense of self. Pirate Clark is also incredibly aggressive. All of the other still lifes, as you can see, are not attacking Clark. At the table scene, they don't attack him. Even though Pirate Clark initially doesn't attack real Clark, eventually he does. But not only that, but as far as we're aware, Pirate Clark has caused the deaths of everyone else in this film so far. None of the other still lives have. They have chased Clark. We've seen the other still lives chase him, but we don't know what reason that was for. We do know that Pirate Clark is the one who killed the async man at the start. We do know that Pirate Clark is the one who killed Kat and Bobby. And we do know that Pirate Clark has a lair where you see piles and piles of clothes from people that he has collected and killed. You have piles and piles of bodies. Piles. Every single missing person has died due to this pirate. You know it's his lair because you see the little caveman cardboard cutout that it obliterated at the start of the movie. It collects everything that it kills. The way that it moves is not someone who's experienced in the way of walking with a peg leg. It has a peg leg, but it stumbles. Now this could be also because real Clark doesn't walk that great in a peg leg, but real Clark walks better than Pirate Clark. Pirate Clark stumbles around with it like he is constantly drunk, which is an exact mirroring of his drinking problem. We have a giant, drunk, aggressive pirate walking around killing people. That is an exact copy of Clark's patterns and memories as a person. However, part of Clark's pattern is feeling that he is wrong and that he needs to change. And when Big Clark comes into the room and Little Clark, or Human Clark, walks up to Big Clark and says, "Hey, this is our therapist, Mary. It's okay." She says, "We don't need to change. We can stay exactly where we are. It's just the way we're wired." Instead of Pirate Clark continuing to be friendly with Little Clark, he picks him up and appears to begin to hug him before he bites down. So real Clark has broken out of his old patterns of feeling like he needs to change. However, Pirate Clark is still in that pattern of feeling like he needs to change. So Pirate Clark no longer recognizes Little Clark as a version of himself. And so he kills Clark. Mary and Clark both break their patterns in this movie. Clark breaks the pattern of feeling like he needs to change, and Mary breaks the pattern of feeling like she needs to always help people. But because Big Clark no longer recognises Little Clark, so he kills him, and so he continues on with that rampage. He just becomes another person that he is aggressive towards. Both characters have their patterns and their memories that shape the way they are, just like how the Backrooms has these memories and patterns that shapes it. By the end of the movie, the Backrooms has changed, and so do the characters. Mary, like I said, changes. Honestly, there's so much more in this film. I could talk about it for hours, and I happily will. If you guys want me to talk a little bit more about this film, if you've seen it and you're as excited as I am, please let me know. Also, please tell me your thoughts about the movie below as well, because I've been trying to avoid other people's opinions up until this point because I wanted to share mine. But of course, I would love to see what you guys are thinking as well, because I think it's so fascinating to see other people's point of views, especially on a movie like this that can be interpreted in so many different ways. I have a lot of other thoughts about Bobby, about Kat, about multiple scenes that just made my skin crawl and my jaw like hit the floor. But I would love to talk about those a little bit more. It was an incredible movie. I'm completely obsessed with it. I will be watching it again many times. I think this is genuinely one of my favourite movies, just because it makes you think about it. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you all in the next video, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.